Welcome to That One Time with Adam Metwally. Today I'm with Danny Rants and we're going to get to know him over the next 10 minutes ahead of the full episode later on this week. Hi Danny, thanks for joining me.
What's going on, Adam? Long time no see. How are you, my bro?
Good, very good. Very excited for this. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Keen.
So, who are you? What are you best known for? And for somebody who doesn't know you, why should they listen today?
So, my name is Danny Grant, aka Danny Rants. I'd say I'm the TikTok guy currently. It's probably like the word that gets thrown around. Basically, I am an entertainment, guru in a sense. I'm a nightclub promoter. I've worked with labels, I've worked with musicians, I've worked on festivals. And I would say at one point I was probably one of the bigger or most, not curated, what's the word? I'm trying to think. Like one of the most fucking respected weekly nightclub promoters at a given point due to a sound that we created, which was called Melbourne Sound at the time, but then eventually turned into Melbourne Bounce. Since then, I pivoted into alcohol and I now own a brand that's massive across Australia, but again, it has club roots. So I would say that I'm well known as like a nightclub guy, basically that's my background, who's renowned for pivoting and taking great opportunity and like being a good businessman, but at the same time, presenting like someone who's not.
Sick. So what was your best nightlife story?
I got heaps, dude. I got so many nightlife stories. I guess my most viewed one is the story in New Zealand where I took over a bunch of Australian rappers, like drill rappers, and I didn't know one of them was affiliated with a gang in Australia. And when we got there, I was running the show and a rival New Zealand gang attacked the venue. And then the police thought that I was a part of the rival gang. And then I had to deal with this situation. It unfolded, it was completely insane. And there was like smashed windows and knives and all kinds of wild stuff. So they were both like predominantly Samoan and Islander groups. And then I had to navigate how to get both gangs out of the situation and deal with the police whilst not getting arrested in New Zealand, and made the news and did this whole thing. And that was like one of the first videos I did that went viral. But basically that story I would say is easily the most craziest nightlife moment. And almost ended with me having a ban through gang associations in New Zealand. So for someone who is not involved in any of that sort of stuff, it was a bit of a wild tale.
What was your worst nightlife experience?
Probably that.
Oh shit. Best and worst. And what about your weirdest?
My weirdest one, I reckon it was like, obviously, you know, we talk about, you see drugs in nightclubs, so you've worked in them yourself. My weirdest one was like, I was running an event and it was like 11 a.m. or 12 a.m. and a chick just like was smiling at me and it was like from a movie, you know that movie Smile? She was just like smiling at me and I smiled back at her and she seemed okay. And then she just pissed herself.
Oh, what the fuck?
So, and I was like, what the actual fuck? And it was the middle of the day, like the day just started and she just looked so normal. So I'd say it's probably one of my weirdest, I'd say, moments that I saw. And other than that, man, honestly, it was like people writing with their own feces on walls in toilets. And it was something I didn't see once, I saw multiple times. So
people are crazy.
Yeah.
What's the most impactful thing somebody listening today could do to begin running successful parties?
Start. That's my thing every time everyone asks me like, hey, I want to run events, I want to run nightclubs, I want to live a life that you did. I'm like, just give it a go. Like, you know, everything that I've ever done, the only difference between me and your idea is that I started it.
Sure.
If it fails, big deal. You know, like we move on, we try again.
Yeah, cool. And what book has changed your life the most?
Weirdly enough, there's a book, and it's like the most demotivating book you'll ever read, but it's called Outliers.
Oh, yeah.
From a guy called Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
And basically what it talks about is that like, it's like right time, right place. So for argument's sake, one of the things they talk about is the Beatles. And the Beatles, when they first started out, they were playing in Amsterdam 12 hours a day just to make enough money to get through school. But that same band played for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. So then they became the greatest band of all time.
Yeah,
but it's like, and if Amsterdam doesn't have that spot where they can play, they don't get that gig, they maybe don't exist. So it explains like all these things that you think these guys are freaks or, you know, these are phenomenal anomalies in the world, but basically it explains why they're not. Yeah. And then how it's right time, right place and all these different factors. And when I sort of read that, I was like, well, you know, I've got a Buckley's chance is like an Aussie term, but no one has a better chance than me, really. Like, I've got the same amount of chance as anybody. No one realistically is an outlier. It doesn't exist. It's more of a situational based thing. So it kind of made me more confident. So I'd say it was a book that changed my life.
Cool. I haven't read it. I'll have to add it to the list. I like it. I've known about it. It's been kind of in my brain.
It's relatively demotivating because it basically just rips down all these people who you think are special.
Yeah.
And explains why they're special. Yeah. And then at the same time, I read it and I was like, weirdly enough, it just really did the opposite. It empowered me, didn't bring me down.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing to know that there are other people that are super successful are just like us.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the core of the message, it sounds like. What sub $100 purchase have you made that's changed your life?
A sub $100 purchase that has changed my life. My first pinger. The first time I had one of them and it kicked in, I was like, fuck me, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Like, not pingers, but working in nightclubs. So I'd say that was my first and best under $100 buy.
That's a pisser. I love it. I love it. I wasn't expecting that. If you could only listen to one more song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I thought about this, and I would say it's Tomorrow's Silverchair. So that was the first song that I really, really, really fell in love with. Frog Stomp, Silverchair, Daniel Johns. Like, that was my first album that I could afford to buy in a discount bin for $10. And I just love that song, and I can listen to it on repeat forever. And it just what my greatest favorite song, and it means so much to me. So Tomorrow by Silverchair is the song I can listen to forever.
Dope. What's the best piece of advice you've received?
The best piece of advice I received was I was talking to a dude. So I actually boxed. I used to fight back in the day. And when I first started, it made me so scared. Like, I was like petrified, right? Yeah. So my trainer would say, Danny, you have to spar on Tuesday. And for the next 3 days, my guts would sink every time I thought about it. I'd be sweating. I was petrified. And I was speaking to a friend of mine who was a boxer and professional boxer. And he said, dude, you just got to keep doing it and overcoming that fear day by day. And eventually it's going to be like driving a car. Remember when you drove a car? You're petrified, and now no longer you don't think about it. You know, like, you just move along and you do whatever. And I did that, and I became non-scared of it, and then I became to turn it into a skill and did all these different things and whatever. But I overcome something that people don't want to do, man. Like, people don't want to fight, and I turned it into something to me that was no more scary than having a shower. Yeah. And when going back to that thing, like, that piece of advice was continue. Eventually, it won't get scary. But that's like anything, you know. Like, if you start a business, or you start a music career, or you post something on Instagram, or you do whatever, it's always scary at the start. But if you keep doing it, eventually it becomes less scary and you become better at it.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. Nice. What's one opinion that would make people either scratch their head or get angry in regards to running a nightclub?
I think promoter DJs, right? So promoter DJs, obviously a lot of people get upset about that, but I've got an opinion about it, is that I don't believe that the way people look at it is wrong. The way they think, oh, you know, why should I have to promote because I'm skilled, or I can make music, or I can do X, Y, Z? And I think that that's a ludicrous statement, because the reality of it is, if I book Taylor Swift, I booked Taylor Swift because she's the biggest artist in the world and she has pull, right? Yeah. So effectively, in my opinion, she's the biggest promoter DJ there ever existed. Yeah. And it goes back down. You talk about Dom Dolla, 215,000 just recently. He is a promoter DJ. He brings people to a place. So at the beginning, if you think you're void of having to promote, then at any way, stretch of imagination, or bring people, that to me is something that leaves me scratching my head, because I don't think it's a good opinion. The opinion is like, how can I get people to come? Yeah. Like, you don't have to drag your friends, but it should be like, well, is it because I make music? Is it because I've created a community? Is it because people want to come see my show? Rather than like blockading and put a hurdle up and saying, well, I can't, so therefore, you know, I'm a victim. It should be like, well, how do I overcome that hurdle to bring a crowd just the same as every big artist in the world? So that's sort of, I guess, to answer that question.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a really good point. I feel the same about that. And, you know, we've been in this space for a while and had similar issues. So what's one weird daily practice you swear by, even though people think it's strange?
I would say probably drinking Monster energy drinks, which is something I never did. Like, I don't drink caffeine. I am like anti it. Like, the smell makes me ill. And I didn't start drinking caffeine until I was like 32. And now I am an absolute crack addict. And I have a Monster energy drink addiction. I don't punch drywall and I don't wear a unit hat, but I do drink one in the morning, and I'm like embarrassed of it. So this is the first time I probably ever said it on camera.
So good.
And I literally will drink them in the car and hide them underneath my seat so people don't see. But that is a little bit of a ritual that I have now. Is like, first thing in the morning, I'm like, and I get into that.
Sugar-free or?
Sugar-free all day.
Okay, sugar-free, all right.
And their flavours are so elite. It's got a bad reputation, Monster.
I was going to say, if you're smashing the full sugar ones first thing in the morning, that's kind of wild.
Nah, I'm not.
Oh, that's so good. What's one app that everybody should have downloaded on their phone?
Weather Zone.
That's so specific.
Just because it's, it's always good to know the weather, because in case it's hot and you wear shorts, you wear pants, you're going to be sweating all day. So I think that's an app you must have on your phone.
What advice do you wish you'd received and actually believed when you were 18?
I don't know, man. I was a really naturally confident human, probably well above what I should have been, considering my situations and how I grew up. The only advice I would have received was probably, this is going to be another weird one, so get prepared for it, but is to the macarons aren't like biscuits because I fucking love macaroons, sorry, and I don't like biscuits. So I never ate them till I was 30, and now I wish that I ate them younger. So I wish someone had said, hey, macaroons aren't biscuits. Give this a go, because I feel like I missed fucking 30 years of my life not eating those delicious little puffy
They're so
treats.
good, aren't they? They're so good. No. You're killing this. It's so funny. I can't wait for the podcast. What's the biggest myth running a nightclub that you can debunk in 10 seconds?
That every single person is a drug dealer. There's always a thing that, you mentioned the word nightclub dealer. Fucking, I'm just putting myself in. You mentioned that you're a nightclub owner, and automatically people assume either you're addicted to drugs, you sell drugs, you're some sort of like gangster, and it's just not the reality. Like, yeah, maybe 20 years ago it was more common, but these days, dude, like the regulations and how closely we are watched, it's close on impossible. Like to own a nightclub, you effectively have to go through more vigorous regulation and watch bodies than you do if you open up any other business. So the idea that we're these larger than life drug dealers or whatever the hell it is just, it's so unfounded. And I'd say that's a myth that I can debunk straight away is now. Because people did do it though, that's the thing. That is not a reality.
Yeah, fair enough. What's the most famous contact you have, and how did you get it?
I would say it's got to be Dom Dolla, right? So that's one. I was thinking about this before. I've got Troy Candy's another guy. He's pretty big, but in our industry, in our scene, it's got to be Dom. And how did I get his number? He's at the moment is his ex-tour manager works for me. And we, after their show at the Woolstock, don't know if you went there, but it was fucking amazing.
I heard. I wasn't in the country.
Dude, honestly, one of the best shows I've ever been to. No. But after that, there was a party for sort of family and friends that we got invited back to. It was at her, I think I could say it now. So we were there, and then Dom played whatever, and I bailed about 2 o'clock, but my one of Dom's best mates, a guy called Harry Daniels, who was his tour manager, he stayed back, and we had work the next day, and he said, can we come in late? And I said, yeah, you can come in like 10. So I left. And I got a message from Dom at 5 a.m, a photo of him and Harry, and he said, can Harry please have the day off? So that's how I have Dom's new contact, is because he was trying to get his best mate the day off after the show at the Woolstock.
Oh, that's so good. And what's the craziest story you've been a part of that makes you still go, wait, that happened?
I've got so many, man. Like, I think that's sort of my whole thing, right? Like, I tell so many, but some of my favorites are obviously that New Zealand story. It's wild. Some of the things that I do, like people that I meet and hang around with, like even recently, small thing, but like hanging around with 360, and we've been mates. And when I was younger, he was such a big artist to me. And then he sat down and was talking about how, I make him feel calm and how good of a friend I am. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is the guy that I looked up to when I was younger. And now, not only are we friends, he respects me to a point where he wants me to be around him. Like, so that's wild. But then throwing a party, living in a castle for 4 days in Ballarat. I've done island parties in Queensland twice now, and just doing that and like navigating it, and like while I'm running around on private yachts and shit, I'm just like, how the fuck is this happening? Like, how is this my life?
So
and
fun.
Man, like backstage with artists and meeting people like Skrillex and like I basically see someone who gets famous, and no doubt I'll end up meeting them at some point, and it's become normal to me, but it hasn't washed over me. I'm just like, how is this my life? And I call my missus, like, this is actually kind of interesting. And I called my wife the other day, and I got invited down to film at Sydney Myer Music Bowl. And I'm like, says me. They invited me down to film at the Sydney Myer Music Bowl, and she's like, it blows my mind that 20 years on, you still get so excited by these things. And I'm just a natural frother, like that's what I am. Yeah. And I was just like, I couldn't have been more stoked. And I felt like the president of the United States because I got invited to come down, because it means so much to me, that space. Yeah,
it's a very good, I think, attitude to maintain and keep cultivating, just like the gratitude of how crazy life is and how crazy fun life is. Like, it could be hell of a lot worse. It could 100%. Be a completely different pathway that would suck. But you're here, and it's like, got to wake up every day and be like, fuck yeah, let's go, let's do it.
And I don't know, just never get over it. Like, the new things will happen. Like, even I had the owner from 161 called me yesterday to talk about stuff, and I'm like, fuck man, I was a fan of 161. I knew of those guys, and now he's calling me to have a chat. I'm just like, this is awesome. Like, so I never get over it. Like, I'm a music fan first and a frother first, and everything else is just like a bonus.
Yeah, brilliant. And what's the last question for you is, what's the strangest compliment you've ever received?
The strangest compliment I've ever received was from Luka Dorovich from Lucky, and he said, "You're the best. You're the most structured crazy person I've ever met." He's like, and then I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You just kind of like, blah, but you get shit done."
That's the best way to be. All right, well, I'll see you on the other side.
Cool, man.
Brent, cool.